and thank you so much for joining this live streamed community event on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. My name is Marcus James. I'm from the Teaching English team, and today we're going to be summarizing what we've been talking about for the past 3 months. That is understanding my learners. And to help us, we're going to be talking to Sirin, who is on the right of your screen. Hi, Sirin. How are you?
Thank you. Great to be here, and great to say hello to everyone. So it's really nice to be here with you today.
It really is. And later in this live stream, we'll be bringing on a community member, Fadiruddin. He's going to be talking about what we've been discussing in the community as well. If you have been interacting with us, you might recognize his name. So we're going to be summarizing some of the conversations we've been having. And then later we'll be speaking to Tatjana about the great mini events that we've been running on the theme of understanding my learners in April, May, and June. So Sirin, what has been happening in the courses for teachers community?
Yes, thank you so much. So I'm speaking on behalf of the course tutors, Melissa, Huma, and myself, and Huma is also here with us. Hi, Huma. And we would like to thank firstly each and every one of you who joined us over the last 3 months. So in the last 3 months, our theme has been understanding learners with 3 core courses at the heart of our focus. So motivating learners, motivating activities for primary, and classroom research. And alongside these main courses, we also continue to offer a range of other courses that address key issues in education, such as inclusive classrooms, gender in language education, integrating digital technologies, teaching English to refugees, and some practical methodology courses like how to teach speaking, how to teach grammar. So our course members can check, community members can check the course pages for information about the next courses, and especially our training calendar shows the courses happening, and that will happen until the end of March. And I'd like to ask our audience also, if you have you tried something from the courses in your own classrooms? Please share with us in the chat. From our experience, we've had a wide selection of courses, which meant there were so many opportunities to engage with each other and on a range of meaningful topics. So it was very colorful and full of variety. And the course modules are also very rich. So each course opened a different window. And of course, we have our wonderful Facebook community, and on other spaces, on other social media spaces, we have been engaging with teachers from all around the world. And here
That's
also,
right.
I see teachers.
Exactly. I was going to say, I've got my eyes on 3 live streams at the moment on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So it's a quick shout out. We can't shout out everybody, unfortunately, but you're right. You've got your fellow course coordinator, Huma, who's watching. I think she's in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken. Teresa, also on Facebook in Mexico. Got Kajika. Says good evening. So I'm guessing somewhere in Asia, probably. We've got Axe in Pakistan, Jean in Angola, lots of teachers watching, Ahmed in Egypt, or Mariam in Tunisia. On Instagram, I can see we've got Shihab, Imene, Omji, Haida, lots and lots of teachers who are watching right across our community platforms. One of the great things we've been doing recently, let me just hide that comment, is, and again, it may be difficult to see on your mobile screen, but we've got this fantastic summary, recap, wrap up, we're not sure what we want to call it. We'll be asking for your suggestions later on. But we've got this 5-page PDF document which summarizes all the great learning that's been happening right across Teaching English through our webinars, our courses, and our public and closed communities. There is a link in the description of this video, which will take you to a page where you can download the PDF for yourself. So what I love about this document, since we're talking about courses, so courses is on page 5, and you can see there, maybe again download it, you can see it a lot easier. But Sirin, we've got in the bottom left there the different types of conversations that you have in the courses for teachers community. Can you tell us what the difference is between the community corner, Ask Us Anything, and the deep dive? How do they differ?
Yeah, in the community corner, we share and highlight practical ideas shared by community members. For example, we identify some ideas. In one community corner, we may have this particular topic about the most recent courses and topics raised by community members. So it's all about our community's members' questions and ideas. And Ask Us Anything is, again, we respond to big questions asked by our community. It's a live session, and our community members can ask any questions, and we also connect them to the questions asked on the community pages and under posts. And deep dive is when we explore an issue deeply. For example, once we discussed the importance and the different ways we can do role playing in different levels and grade levels. So it's all about these are actually all live events that we come together, ask and answer questions in different ways.
Excellent, and that's exactly why we're here. In fact, welcome, Aks Fatima. It's my very first time to attend your live. I'm looking forward to have more learning. Well, stay tuned, keep following us. A few more quick shout outs. Also, Aks does love the PDF summary. Would love to get some feedback on teachers who have downloaded it and see how it's helped you with your development of the theme. Got also Makair in Senegal joining us, Sasha in Myanmar, Tina in Italy, which is fantastic. Okay. Sirin, then, you've obviously one of the course tutors in the private Facebook group. What are some of the highlights from the discussions, the posts, the conversations that teachers have been having that are connected to our theme of understanding my learners?
Mm-hmm. Firstly, one thing that that stayed with me, that I learned from the course modules, was that a quote, really: you can motivate by fear, you can motivate by remorse, but both of these methods are only temporary. The only lasting thing is self-motivation. And when we actually understand our learners, we stop relying on our assumptions and on external motivators. Instead, we try to find ways to help them develop internal motivation. And we, to be able to discuss and understand how we can activate that internal motivation, we've had so many conversations, and we also ask questions to our audience. So through some polls, and from the polls, for example, something that came up. So the majority of our community members' concerns are centered on how to teach effectively, not just what to teach. So most of the questions were about instructional strategies. And this indicates that our community members are actively seeking practical methods to improve this learner engagement and internal motivation. And it reflects a strong need for professional support, resources, training on instructional approaches, especially in contexts with mixed abilities, limited resources, language barriers. And there were also we had some courses like teaching English to refugees, gender in language education. These courses brought attention to learners who are often underrepresented, or this gave us a space to hear stories, strategies that don't always get shared. And it was also great to see the peer support. So how we have been very generous about sharing our knowledge and ideas. So our community members are really very supportive to each other. And one other thing that I have noticed is that as a result of having so many courses in our community, in our pipeline, we are building unexpected connections. For example, a primary teacher found maybe a new idea from someone teaching adult learners. So these crossovers also made learning really rich. And one final thing I would really like everybody, because classroom research was the course that we haven't really seen our teachers conducting research and reporting us back on the community because of the nature of that course. But I would really, really like to encourage all our community members to miss that opportunity if that classroom research course opens again, and it's still maybe in a few days more they can have access to the course. And then this makes, I mean, in all courses, including motivating learners, it really works when we actually try something in the classroom during the course weeks and report back.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Sirin. A couple of comments before we swap places. Makar or Makare, I'm not sure how you pronounce, I do apologize. Knowing a learner's purpose helps motivate them. And Gifty Edna, as a teacher, you need to know your learner's needs before you plan for them. That was great. And Carlos, if you increase motivation, you increase learning. I absolutely love that. And last one here, Rachna. My main, I think, takeaway for this theme is to understand my learners as human beings. I do absolutely love that. One thing I'm going to quickly highlight, I'm going to bring this up here, and then we're going to also bring Fajr on. Okay, so one of the community polls that we ran was what motivates learners. We've got a community member, Fajr. You can see that the top there is games and fun activities. Sirin and Fajr, would you agree? Is it the same for you?
Well, it's the most popular. I agree. It's the most popular, right? When you talk about motivations within the learning, or things that engage students or fostering students' motivation. One of them, well, in my experience and to what I witnessed so far, most teachers come up with games, gamified learning, activities, fun activities, those kind of stuff. So I agree to this one.
Excellent. And Sirin, before we leave you, take a little break, would you agree, or is there anything you might also include on this list?
I would also like to add rapport with the teacher, because the research also suggests that when learners have a relationship with the teacher in the right way, this increases their learning up to maybe at least 35%. So they start ahead of the game. So it's really important that we take this into consideration. But I know that if our teachers are watching us, that means that they are really interested in this topic and they want to have
exactly. It's been so popular, this topic. And by the way, this chart that you see on your screen is part of that PDF that you can find by clicking on the link in the description. Sirin, you'll be back a little bit later for our wrap-up of the wrap-up. So I'll let you go for now. Take a quick break. Thanks. Okay, so we've got Fajruddin with us, who's a very active community member. If you are following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, no doubt you've probably seen a comment or Fajruddin as part of many of the discussions. Understanding my learners. Fajr, what does that mean to you following our posts over the past 3 months. What does it mean, understanding my learners?
Okay, thank you very much, Marcus. First of all, good evening from Indonesia and good afternoon or good morning wherever you are, teachers joining us from. It's very great to be here again talking about the theme that is actually into my heart very much as a teacher, and I believe is one of the core values that most teachers have in their classroom. Well, if we take a look at some comments that also in our recap, understanding learners also mean understanding learning. I agree to actually what the Gifty Edna mentioned in the comment. Before you start planning your lesson, before you start your planning the learning, you have to understand your learners. That's what I believe, and to what I've experienced and witnessed so far is one of the most important core values in actually engage in teaching and learning. As a teacher, you need to know your learners' need before you plan for them. I really agree with that. And also, from the previous comment that we had in our community page, so when we try to understand learners, we try to understand who they are, not only as a student in the classroom, but as a human being, their humanity, their interests, and how we can communicate with them, and their purpose and goals, especially for those who teach adult learners, teaching professionals, universities. Most of the time, they want the learning itself to actually revert or reflect what they are doing. So I believe again, this theme is one of the most important core values in teaching. Before we start the learning, we need to understand the learners.
Oof, I wish I was writing that down. I'm going to have to check the tape script. That was very insightful, Fajr. Thank you so much for that. Now, one of the, so I'm just double checking, that today is World Refugee Day, and all of this week we've been sharing posts on helping displaced learners, helping refugee learners. I was just double checking the date. I knew it was this week, the actual day. So yeah, Friday the 20th of June is World Refugee Day, and that coincides with an interesting comment here. Obviously, don't want to get into world events too much, but just in terms of education and teaching, with what's going on in the world, and it is World Refugee Day. So obviously we do acknowledge that we might have learners in our classes who are migrants or refugees who might be needing sort of additional support in class. Fajr, if I could ask you, is that your little one in the background?
Oh my goodness, sorry for that. Yeah,
it's all right. It's all right.
Okay.
So how do you view education and teaching in today's world, full of events, crises, and displacement? So it's a good question for World Refugee Day.
Correct.
How do you handle this?
I would refer to the advice from the community, which is again in our recap from the PDF. So it's very important to make connection with learners. Again, it's very aligned to how we see learners, students as a human being instead of just participants in the classroom. When we see them as like us, so we have that. They have lives, they have feelings, and they have interests. That's what we need to see. The first thing is talk to them. I read it from one of the comment from the community member. Talk about things which are beyond English language learning. As simple as like, how was your day? What happened? I hope you are doing well, and so on, so on. So it's like it's a small steps, but very touching. Again, in my experience, how we can build rapport, especially with teenagers, because sometimes teenagers can be one of the most group that is highly affected by situations, because they're between growing up, starting to be ready for the world, but also transitioning from being cared, being in the background, okay, or ignoring things and stuff. So I would say building a rapport with teenagers in this kind of situation would be very essential. And we had a story from our community member also where they said, so some of my students have had traumatic experience and find it difficult to concentrate. And they said patience and kind words go a long way to helping them focus. I really love this one, patience and kind words. So we can go beyond the English itself. Not only that, we can introduce them with vocabulary, we can introduce them to kind vocabulary on how we can be resilient and also cope with this kind of situation.
Yeah, empathy, I think, is the word that comes to mind.
Empathy.
Absolutely. Right, Fajr, thank you, Ibrahim, sorry for your question. I hope our response has given you something to consider. Teachers watching, do feel free to contribute in the discussion if you can help Ibrahim with some ideas as well. Now, I'm just going to go back to our fantastic PDF that we've been looking at. That's the wrong one. Oops, this is the one, right? Okay, so it's a 5-page PDF that summarizes our very active discussions that we've been having over the past 3 months. And I'd like to now just quickly go to, that's right, page 3, where we'll be speaking to Tatjana later about the webinars. AI for Inclusion was some of the most popular that we've had. But one of the interesting discussions that Fajr was part of in a recent live stream, and there's a link to the recording if you'd like to catch that. Again, I appreciate that the text is very small, but we were talking about understanding not just our learners, but specifically Gen Z or Generation Z. And we had an interesting discussion. Should teachers teach Gen Z phrases as part of our curriculum? And just summarize your view on this, Fajr. Obviously, teachers can watch the replay. But what were your thoughts on this? What did we talk about last time?
Well, I really love this one. So, Gen Zs are mostly our teenagers now, and some of them are going to college and even working. And I mentioned that we may go beyond thinking of Gen Z phrases and slang as phrases and slang, because probably 10 to 20 years from now, those Gen Z phrases and slang are just common words that these Gen Z who are later on be the adults in the future using these words and phrases as one of the part of the evolving English language. Even though there are two, there have always been different perspectives on this, but to what I see, guiding students on how they use language is always part of language learning. Though maybe we are not the one who teach them the words, we are not the one who teach them the language, we may need to still guide them on how they can actually use those language, because again, they are part of the English language.
That's right. That's a comment from Benjamin here. No need to teach Gen Z phrases because they already know them. They teach us.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, trying to get them to use them correctly is more of a challenge. Quickly going back to, if you remember Ibrahim's question earlier, he said, thanks, Fajr, for your response. Dikta, I myself have been a refugee since 2020 in Pakistan. Obviously, today is World Refugee Day. That's why we brought it up. I can understand and really want to cite to all refugees, whether teachers or students, to develop their research qualities and find solutions to those complications. So yeah, try to be, I think the phrase is be part of the solution, not the problem. I know it might come across wrongly, but I do apologize. But yes, it's trying to find practical solutions, looking at what we can do to support ourselves, but also our learners in class. Quick return to our topic I mentioned there, Gen Z, Kashika on YouTube, Gen Z in education, learn best through interactive and experiential methods. Do like that. We'll come back to this direction. We also talked about the role of, being inclusive Teacher One using AI. Of course, one of the things that came up when we talked about AI was the biases that it might have, and finding inclusive solutions to that. Fajr, thank you so much for being part of this discussion. We will be bringing you back in a moment, but thank you. And let's see if we can bring Tatjana. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right, Fajr, we'll see you in a bit. Thank you. Okay. Tatjana, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good.
Excellent. So glad to hear that. Now, one of the things we mentioned at the beginning, so we're going to be talking about the courses, which Sirin helped us to summarize and explore, then the community discussions, which Fajruddin has been helping contribute to. And the last part, we're going to be looking at the fantastic mini events that we've had in April, May, and June. So we'll work backwards. So the most recent mini event was the one that you coordinated. Teachers, if you'd like to find a recording, WAM, hopefully we'll be popping a link in the live chat. But could you tell us a little bit about what the mini event was focusing on? And if teachers would like to watch the replays or the recordings, what could they expect from them?
Yeah, last week, Friday, about this time, we were discussing motivation during a panel discussion with a colleague from Serbia and another colleague from Albania. And then we had a webinar delivered by an amazing teacher from Azerbaijan who was back then at a study trip in the US. So she woke up at 5 a.m. to deliver this webinar, which really demonstrated an extraordinary commitment. So we were really interested in sharing our personal stories when it comes to motivation. All of these colleagues, they are ELT professionals with 20 plus years of experiences, and they were at both sides of the table, either as teachers, mentors, teacher educators. Because nowadays we see that teachers are struggling to keep up their motivation because there are so many different reasons, and all of these turbulent times that we live in and different crises and so many changes on a daily level, technology, it can really, really affect motivation and inspiration, either to teach or to learn. It doesn't matter. So everybody needs to be inspired and motivated. I have to tell, it was amazing. It was absolutely global, and it was great to see that teachers across the globe, they share the same feelings, they struggle with the same challenges, they appreciate the same level of recognition, the same rewards, and so on. What I wanted to know from these colleagues that were kind enough to join the webinar and to join the panel discussion was how do they keep themselves motivated? How do they share the motivation with their peers? And how they manage to be positively contagious for their students. And there were so many amazing lessons shared. And I would really encourage everybody to go to check out these webinars, to check the chat. You'll find so much wisdom there. But probably 3 words that I would single out when it comes to these 2 hours are community, mentoring, and reflections. And probably the community was the most important ones. Teachers crave community. We all need our tribe. We all need people who speak the same language. Whether we are lonely in the classroom and we struggle on a daily basis, you need to come to your community, to a safe place, and meet people who can understand you or who can tell you, don't worry, I know the way through this. I've been in the same place 5, 6, 10 years ago. So this is probably the most vital part. So we know that as the British Council, we provide many different platforms and many different ways for teachers to join a community or to build their own. This is probably number one when it comes to motivating and inspiring teachers, because there is so much knowledge there, there is so much support, there is so much exchange, and sometimes you don't need to read hundreds of pages, you don't need to attend I don't know how many courses, you just need to join your Facebook community or to meet your peers in a face-to-face event, and you will have 5 minutes sharing, and that will be enough. Also, having a mentor that is really, really important to keep you motivated, especially if you're a young teacher and you're completely blocked and you're scared in the classroom full of children, or you are dealing with teenagers, whatever the group you are teaching is. So that is probably the second place winner when it comes to motivating teachers. And also, everybody mentioned that we need to embrace the practice of reflections, that it really needs to become a block in our week when we sit down with ourselves, with our thoughts. 10 minutes, that can be enough just to reflect on our week and to see what was good, what could have been better, so we know better for the next week. So we were trying for 3 key takeaways, but these are the 3 ones: community, mentoring, reflections.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Tatjana. I just reading a few comments. Nidina Dor on Instagram says absolutely true. What you're talking there about staying motivated. We're asking a direct question to the audience. So you can see it on the screen. As teachers, how do you stay motivated? So one comment here that actually connects very well to the theme: understanding our learners is the most efficient way to have a peaceful, confident, and bold, where every student can speak and relate their lives to the language, and that's what they can get as motivation their minds, and be clear with that fear of embarrassment. Needy on Instagram. I can't show it on screen, unfortunately, but I'll read it out. I don't usually get scared, but always want to have different strategies according to the topic. So I guess that's one thing I found when I was, in my early years of teaching. I'd learned all these sort of methods and observed teachers teaching, but they have different personalities to me. So there was things that I wasn't kind of comfortable in doing as a teacher, and it was only for about 2 or 3 years I realized I need to find my own style, things that I feel comfortable and confident, and that sort of helped to keep me motivated.
What we need to do, all of us, we need to talk to each other, and we need to listen to each other, and we need to openly ask, what do you need? And to very openly ask for the support.
Absolutely.
It's different when you enter the classroom and when you talk to real people from what you learn in the books or webinars or whatever. So there has to be some tweaking, and there has to be this personal ingredient, personal touch. So I would completely agree to your point.
Thank you for that. Of course, I was going to bring up the lovely PDF document again. So a quick reminder, you can download these from the link in the description of this video. Scroll to the bottom of the page and you can download this 5-page summary. Can you hear the drilling in the background? I apologize for that.
No.
It's good. So it's a 5-page summary. It looks at the theme, understanding your learners, the things that we sort of included within that theme. We've had some discussions in the community, and we looked at a couple of the statistics there. Again, you can download them for yourself and check up in more detail. On the right of your screen, AI and inclusion. That was a mini event that we ran in May. And we had some of the most popular sessions coming from that. Tatjana, were you able to catch up on any of the AI for inclusion webinars?
Yes, some of them.
What were your takeaways from what you saw?
Maybe not necessarily from these webinars, but when we discuss AI and inclusion, there are so many pros, and I'm so very mindful, and I'm trying to be even more mindful of AI and all benefits, but also disadvantages that it is creating inevitably. So when it comes to inclusion, we really have to be mindful about teachers, students around the globe who cannot access different AI tools. Unfortunately, while it's making the lives for many of us so easier, and it leaves us with a lot of time and energy to direct our time and energy to something maybe more creative, we have to make sure that we do remember that there are so many people around the world who cannot access it. And we work a lot with sub-Saharan Africa. If there is an electricity cut, if there are some areas that are so remote, these people, they will not be able to access AI. So they do not have all of these advantages as some of us fortunately do. And we also spoke about so many crises, wars that are happening around the globe. I would say that every time we want to use AI, we should just think about other colleagues who are not able to use it. So I think it's hard to say no, because it is really saving us time and mental energy. But when it comes to inclusion, sometimes it can be exclusive. So there is no answer to that. There is no solution to that. Just every time when we talk about inclusion, and it is like a very wide spectrum, I think that we should, at a personal level, be cautious and mindful not to contribute to creating the gap and the digital divide again. So yeah, these would be my thoughts on inclusion. There are so many layers, and I do believe this is a very important one, and it really it is related to ethical use of AI. So this is something that I would encourage colleagues to get informed about, and just nurture that internal barometer when we are using all sorts of technologies.
Excellent. Let's come back to our earlier question about how do you stay motivated as a teacher. Amarine Haider on Instagram says, your own signature and prints in the classroom is a must, in my opinion. Again, it's about your own comfort, isn't it?
Exactly.
Moni says, I feel motivated when I'm planning my class, thinking of the activities my students might enjoy the most. Learning and having fun is a wonderful pair combination. Absolutely. Especially when you've got the two things kind of combining there. Apologies for the noise in the background. Okay. There's a few. Let's go back to the AI topic. Suzanne, in newly opened Syria, when I was there 2 weeks ago, internet was sparse and Thready weren't available, and Gemini was not available. So again, it's about learning and discovering as teachers, isn't it? So one quick mini event to mention as well. We've had 3 mini events 3 mini events, this theme. In April, when we started our focus on understanding my learners, we had a very first mini event with the same name, Understanding My Learners. Tatjana, were you able to catch any of the sessions from that event? And again, I just want to check the comments here. What were your takeaways from that introductory mini event?
It is an absolute must, because very often we enter the classroom, the meeting, wherever, with presumptions, as Sirin said. So if I am presuming that someone wants to know this or that, if I presume that somebody has certain knowledge from before, then I have really good chances to make mistakes. So to understand somebody, not just when it comes to teaching and learning, in life generally, we need to ask more questions. We need to sense our communities. We need to calibrate our learners, but most importantly, we need to very openly ask about their needs. So very often the curricula is designed in that way, that we are presuming what's going to be serving our leaders and what they need. Maybe they do not speaking, or they do need speaking. Maybe they know grammar, but for them it's the most important to get rid of the fear of speaking. So in order to serve your community, in order to support your learners, your colleagues, you really need to talk to them and to ask them, what do you need? Sometimes we're going to be able to accommodate those needs. Sometimes we just have to follow the curriculum or some procedures or whatsoever. But it is a two-way street.
Absolutely. Thank you for summarizing the 3 mini events. And again, teachers who are watching, if you'd like to catch recordings of any of those mini events, you can find them through the link in the description of this video. Now I'm going to bring on Fajr and Sirin for our sort of closing discussion now. Okay, here we all are. All right, so, understanding my learners, we've been talking about it for 3 months. We've explored it through our courses, we've explored it through discussions in the community, and we've explored it through our mini events and webinars. So if we could really summarize and sort of close our theme of understanding my learners in a statement, what does it mean to you? Let's go around the room, and teachers watching, we're interested in your contributions as well. What does it mean, understanding my learners? What have we learned about this theme? Let's start with Sirin. What does it mean to you, understanding my learners?
Well, it's not a teaching skill. I see it like a mindset. As Tatjana said, to understand our learners' behaviors in class, we can start small, and we can begin by observing classroom dynamics without judgment, looking for patterns, attention, emotional cues, such as boredom, frustration, or enthusiasm. Or we can go even more systematic, and we can do classroom research. But it's about our being curious first and understanding learners. Therefore, I think it's not a teaching skill. It's about teachers being curious and motivated to learn about learners, as Fajr said, as human beings.
Excellent. You mentioned picking up on what Fajr said, and I did ask this question earlier, but Fajr, if you could just repeat or recap for us, and from your perspective as a teacher, what does it mean to understand your learners?
Yes, thank you, Marcus. So again, I think this one is in the heart of every teachers. This is a core value for teachers, for learning, for education, because this is the ability to actually truly see and understand learners, not only as participants in the classroom, but as human beings, just like Sirin mentioned, as people, as our friends, even sometimes, and also as the future of the world. And by listening, adapting, and staying open to their evolving needs, we don't just teach the language, which is what we need to do, must do, but we also build bridges to confidence, connection, and their growth.
Sorry, I just realized my microphone was muted. Thank you, Fajr, for your contribution there. Let's pass on briefly to Tatjana, understanding my learners as a theme. What does it mean? We've just heard from Sirin and Fajr. What would you add from your perspective?
Considering that it's the World Refugee Week, and we see that there are so many turbulences and challenges across the globe, I would like to connect the answer with this topic, and also to go back slightly to Ibrahim's earlier question or comment that education is now very, very severely affected by the conflicts and by the war. But we need to understand that teaching and learning is happening all the time, wherever. So whether you are in a refugee camp or whether you are Gen Z and phrases are not that important to you, any sorts of learning, any sorts of providing nuggets of wisdom and knowledge counts. So it's such an ongoing process, and we need to, especially nowadays, tweak more and more. But please do not underestimate the importance of micro-learning, micro steps. And to me, this is a very personal thing, because I was a refugee more than 30 years ago. And the first thing that my mother did when we fled the country, when we fled Bosnia and Herzegovina, I kid you not, she enrolled me and my sister in an English language course. So she was a visionary 30 years ago. And also, whenever you seek knowledge, there's going to be someone who's going to be more than happy to provide the knowledge. And I think that international organizations are, when it comes to education, they're in addition to first aid, they're at the first front to support learners with education, with providing them education regardless of their circumstances. So I think nowadays is even more important to understand the learners and understand that learning is happening in all sorts of environments. So these would be my parting words. It's hard to provide just one statement because the topic is so complex, but I also wanted to share a kind of like personal encouragement and to share with the community that so many of us can relate to students and teachers around the globe, which is so suffered these days.
Yeah, thank you, Tatjana. A few comments come from teachers. Silvana on Instagram, the more relevant the learning is for the students, the best they learn. Real situations, real life experience. And yeah, that seems to be a thread that's coming through. It is World Refugee Day today. This comment, quite relevant. Tahni, after the conflict in my country, Sudan, I try to ask them what they need during this difficult time. So, of course, understanding my learners, one of the best ways to understand my learners is by asking them. Love that. Thank you, Tahni. I've got a few sort of summary comments. Hella, peeling back the infinite layers to reveal who the learners are. Love that. Because again, it's not how you perceive your students. You might need to really get to know them before you can understand. And again, that's from the trust, isn't it? It's commenting on Hella's comment here. How long does it take to get to know your learners, to really get to know your learners? What do you reckon? What do you think, Fajr? How long does it take for you to get to know?
I think it's continuous. Just like I mentioned, like when our learners have evolving needs, especially if we teach teenagers again, most of the time, when they are going through phases, right? So I think it's continuous, and I believe you will miss them. You will miss them when they graduate. They're no longer in your class, so you will miss them a lot, and you might hope that you have more time to actually learn about them more. So it's continuous.
That's right. There's another comment from Mary Luth, again touching on the fact that today is World Refugee Day, but also it really is part of our theme, understanding my learners. I work with foreign students, and some of them are refugees. It's not easy, but we can do it. Sirin, I mean, what would your top tip be for teachers who have refugees, migrants, displaced learners in their classrooms?
Firstly, I think we should also find out about their culture, and these days we've been talking about also multilingual classrooms. So if we have learners from other countries, we can find out about their language. We can integrate them in the classroom by learning how to say hello, thank you, very basic classroom language that we can use to help them feel home. And then slowly, I think maybe Buddy helping them pairing with a more experienced learner in the classroom or in that culture would help them to help them find out more about being in this new community, because everything is new for them, the school environment, even maybe showing them, helping them where things are located in the school so that they won't get lost. They will be able to walk around and find where to find food, for example, or some to meet their basic needs. And to help them, first, I think we need to meet their affective needs, and then cognitive learning comes. So our first aim should be to help them feel safe, secure, and then they will be willing to learn, of course, if that happens.
Excellent, thank you. Great tips there. Again, it is World Refugee Day, so I'd just like to pull up this statistic. By the way, I've not been able to double check that these numbers are true, but we can always check them online. Suzanne has found this: 3.2 million internally displaced persons in northwest Syria. In UNWRA tents, 1.2 million children. Most orphans born in the camps have never held a book, much less sat in a desk in a classroom. Education is the only thing that can give them hope. And I think that is something we all need to bear in mind as teachers. Time, we've been talking for nearly an hour. So I think we're going to wrap up at the moment. Thank you to everyone who has been watching us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Do keep the conversation going. Plenty of links to be found from the description of this video, especially to that fantastic summary, 5-page summary of the theme, Understanding My Learners. Lots of links to continue our learning. So Tatjana, Fajr, and Sirin, thank you so much for helping us basically wrap up the theme.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, teachers, joining us.
Great engaged.
Yeah.
Great engaged.
Looking forward to the next cohorts.
Yes, so do join us for the What's On Teaching English, when we focus on the 5th of July, looking at assessing learning and what's to come in July, August, and September. But anyway, keep the conversation going. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye all.
Bye.
Thank you, teachers. Thank you, teachers.